Hi, this is Sanlumiere, and this is the first impressions look at the Star Wars Battlefront reboot game from EA. They put out a beta for at least PS4 and PC. I'm not sure of any other systems that gave us access to three different modes, and the first mode that you're looking at here is a survival-based mode. It's a single-player or co-op, two-person local or online, as I recall. Wave-based game. There are 6 waves in this version, 15 waves are promised in the full version. And the other two modes are multiplayer. The first one is the AT-AT mode, where the Imperials are defending their AT-ATs and the AT-AT gets to do 3 objectives and the Imperials automatically win. At least that's the way it's working right now. I think that I have not yet actually recorded that video, but my assumption is that it's probably due to the fact that people are new to the game and they're having trouble figuring out how to use the snow speeders to bring down the AT-ATs. But I will report on that in the next video. The other mode is also a multiplayer map. It's a different multiplayer map where it's claiming drop pod objectives. So I will, as I said, hopefully have videos of those up sometime soon. But in the meantime, this is the wave-based single-person experience. I'm not sure what sort of representation this is of the full single-player experience, but thus far it's giving us different. It gives us 5 different enemies, as I recall. Standard stormtroopers. That's actually, I believe, a sergeant stormtrooper based on his shoulder pad. It's got jump troopers, shock troopers with the heavier weapons, I believe a sniper later in the game, and then the AT-ST. You can see that the drop pod functionality or concept is also in this mode as well as the multiplayer map. So as single player you get to sort of practice the concept of unlocking pods. So here's the AT-ST wave. It takes me a little while to figure out all of the controls, all the options that I have available to me here, and this is the very first time I played the game, so I obviously figure out that blasters aren't particularly good against the AT-STs. Not so sure I was surprised by that, but I figured maybe there was a weak spot. There isn't. It's a big metal walking tank, so it'd take me a little while to figure out the special abilities that we have, and I did that mostly, not to really know what was going on before I got involved, so that I could see how the UI was and what kind of learning curve we were looking at. As you are probably aware, you can probably look at the screen and figure out for yourself exactly what I'm supposed to be doing here. If you hit L1, you unlock a grenade launcher. The grenades do a significant amount of damage to the AT-ST. I figured this out. So, while I am figuring that out, we will talk about some other elements of the game. First off, it looks gorgeous. I'm not sure why, by the way, the square button prompt doesn't show up here. I figured I could interact with that pod somehow, and the square never really showed up. So what I actually did was went back to it a number of different times in a row, and eventually the square did show up, and I was like, okay, cool. But here we go, I figure out grenade launchers, so I don't know if I actually hit it. Nope, I completely missed with my grenade launchers the first time, but, I do finish all 6 waves. Spoiler. But the game looks stunning. I'm not sure if the videos even do credit to just how good this game looks. This is obviously Tatooine. This, I think, is maybe a Tusken Raider camp that's been taken over. I'm not exactly sure. But there's a lot of rather tribal buildings and things, and you can see there's cloth hanging from wires and the like. So I think this is a Tusken Raider camp that we're fighting in right now, but it's hard to say. So we're looking at, Beggar's Canyon or Jungle Waste style scenario, which they have captured brilliantly. I will note that there was only one moment of lag that I can even recall at all. Now, of course, you could argue that DICE, and I think it's DICE as the studio, and EA have clearly, potentially, put their best foot forward, as it were, and optimize these things to an insane degree. But that could well be true, but even still, this is ludicrous performance for insane graphic quality. All the little subtle elements are there too, things that a lot of people don't even think about, but it does Star Wars, theatrical Star Wars wipes of the screen when it does transitions. So it even captures that level of detail in recreating a Star Wars experience in a first-person shooter. That is stunning to me, I have to say. It was quite impressive. As a single player version, the only real interactions you see are from Admiral Akbar giving you some information. I'm assuming in the co-op that the two characters will interact and throw out some banter back and forth, maybe offer warnings, things like that. But I cannot say that for sure, but that is my assumption. And I hope it is, because one thing about the single player version in this particular map is it is a little bit I don't know how to describe it. Not boring, of course, because it's a first person shooter with you know, fighting against ATSTs. I mean, there's not a whole lot there that you can't say is exciting. But what you can say is that because it's a single player, it's surprisingly devoid of background, I guess. And I think that's kind of a shame, and I don't know how that will translate to the full game if it's just this particular map because you're you know, by yourself trying to get rescued or whatever, and when you're surrounded by a bunch of other people perhaps in other missions, that the background and immersion will be significantly stronger. Outside of that, there really isn't much to say about the graphical and sound. I mean, it sounds like Star Wars. There's really not much you can say in addition to that. It's fantastic. But there are some things that are kind of interesting about the way that they decided to put this game together. So, for example, new generation shooters have a tendency to do loadouts, right? So you unlock different weapons, you get to pick from those weapons before you go into a mission, so you get to kind of customize your character a little bit before you go into any given situation. So they have that in this game. It's very minimal from what I've seen, but you do get to pick from at least 2 in the beta different loadouts, and you get to potentially, I assume, unlock a certain amount of stuff and so on and so forth. So we get some of this new generation shooter involved in the execution of this game. But they also included some kind of cool throwback stuff to older style shooters with on-map unlocks and power-ups. So I don't think there are any collectibles in the beta. I have not seen anyone successfully find a collectible in the beta. I certainly couldn't find one, and I went back in after this playthrough and went specifically to look for those collectibles just to see what I could find, and I could not find any. But they do have power-ups. So those drop pods, for example, gave that particular drop pod unlocked a special weapon for me, which is this smart rocket thing that I can access by hitting L1 and R1, which makes me believe at this point in the playthrough that what it is a super weapon of some kind. And it is. So no spoilers there, but I was right. Yay, go me. But also there are other things you can unlock, or at least other power-ups you can acquire. So in the survival mode, it's actually life-based. So those hearts at the top, and I never do lose a life, so I actually had to go back in and play through and intentionally die just to see what happened. And those are lives, and you can actually pick up extra lives. You can pick up charges for the triangle ability. You can pick up other power-ups that do different things. So it feels a lot like an older style shooter at that point, because yes, you have a loadout, but those loadouts seem fairly rigid in their options that they give you. But the power-ups give you some interesting things to do in the battlefield itself. I love the fact that those jetpacks do that. It's so old school, but so well executed that you have to appreciate them being there. So this is the final wave that they gave us in the beta. And it's me versus an ATST and a number of enemies. All my enemies are gone except for this ATST and, unfortunately, a sniper. You'll see a green beam shooting across the screen here soon, which will, one, tell me where the sniper is, but there it is. And two, show you what I'm up against. And I suspect, just based on what I've seen in the first six waves, that the 15th wave could be kind of tricky, is my assumption. So I think that's probably one of the benefits of the power-up system, is that they do get to ratchet up. And assuming you get to your drop pods and unlock what they have, you obviously will scale up with the opposing forces. But here I'm like, okay, so I'm like, alright, so I can shoot this ATST, but the sniper is probably just going to be the reason I get taken out. So I try and knock off a bit more life on that ATST before I finally decide to go and find the sniper. And at this point, I've noticed that the collectibles number hasn't changed, so I also go off and hunted the collectibles just to see what I can find. But no, overall, I'm impressed. I am really impressed. This is not my style of game. I am not a first-person shooter player in general. I'm not a multiplayer first-person shooter player specifically, and that is a concern about Battlefront. So, you know, my love of Star Wars will make it so I get this game. My distaste for first-person shooter multiplayer will make me extraordinarily cynical, I suspect, of just how good a job they can do going forward over a significant amount of time to keep the multiplayer element relevant, considering that it will make up a significant portion of this game. There are, I believe there were supposed to be, but there are at this point no microtransactions in this game. And that is a very smart move by DICE and EA, probably specifically EA in this case, because I believe they would be most likely to be pushing for that microtransaction model. They were, I think, planning to do it, and they have chosen not to, and that is a massive credit to them, and they deserve some recognition for that. They should never have microtransactions in a $60 game, if you ask me, but, you know, that is the model that they're going for, and EA decided not to go there at all. So good credit for them. So anyway, there you go. That is a look at the survival waves and my initial impressions of Star Wars Battlefront. As I said, it's planned for November 17th, as I recall, and it's on PS4 and PC in beta for sure. So if you see this in time and you can get hold of that beta, I would definitely recommend it to give it a shot yourself. This was Sanlumiere. Thanks for watching, and I'll have the other couple of videos up soon. Take care. Bye.